So simple interest is all about this formula. And this formula is I equals P times R times T. Or interest is equal to principal times rate times time. So interest is the amount of money that either you or the bank earn on a loan. So if you give money to a bank into a savings account, or if you get money from a bank to buy a car or a house or a student loan, the interest is the extra money on top of the loan. The principal is the actual amount borrowed that you have to pay back on top of the interest itself. The rate is the percentage. And in the formula, whenever you plug it in, it's always going to be a decimal. And the time is always in years. So interest is the amount earned or owed on top of a loan. It's the amount you'll pay back to the bank or the amount the bank pays you for putting money in the savings account. Depends on who's actually giving out the loan. It's usually a small fraction of the total. For example, if it's a $10,000 loan, interest may be $300, $400, $600. It won't be another $10,000 on the loans that we're looking at in the word problems. Principal is the amount of the actual loan. It's usually in thousands of dollars, and it's usually a very round number. 5,000, 15,000, 30,000, 125,000. The rate is the percentage rate of the loan, and usually it's somewhere between 2 and 20%. Depends on if it's a credit card loan or a car loan or whatever it is, and it's always expressed in the formula as a decimal. So like 12.5%, you got to move the decimal two places, becomes 0.125. 7.5, you got to move it two places, it becomes 0.0725. Notice I had to put a zero there because I had to move it two places. Same thing with this one. 2.25 goes two places to the right, 0.0225. And time is always in years. Usually loans are somewhere between 2 and 10 years, except for home loans. Those are usually 30. If there are months in a year, those are usually fractions of a year. Remember that 6 months can be expressed as half or 0.5 of a year, because 6 months is half of a year. 9 months would be 3/4 of a year. So if you ever get a loan for 1.5 years, it's 1.5, or 1 year and 6 months. 6 years is just 6. 3 years and 6 months would be 3.5. If you have to say, if it's say 7 months, make it 7/12 because it has to be a fraction as expressed in a year. So we're going to use the same problem, but look at it in 5 different ways. So let's do it from the perspective of trying to find interest. So Carlos takes out a loan for $5,000. So $5,000 is our principal. At a rate, there's our rate, 5%, so 0.05, for 4 years. 4 years is our time. So we plug in our principal, our rate, and our time. Then you just multiply them all together and you get 1,000. So that's your interest. Same problem, but now we're going to actually look for a principal. So he takes out the loan at a rate. So there's your rate, 0.05. Boom. For years, 4 years, there it is. He pays $1,000 of interest. So we know our interest is that. It asks how much was the original loan. It never says in the question, what is the principal? But that's what this is. So you have to know that principal is the amount of the original loan. So you plug in everything else, you solve out what you can, and then here you'll divide both sides by 0.20 and you'll get 5,000. That's your principal. Carlos takes out a $5,000 loan for 4 years. He pays $1,000 of interest on the loan. What is the rate? So here you plug in interest, plug in percent, or principal, sorry. You look for that percent, that rate, and you have your time. So 5,000 times 4 is 20,000 times R equals 1,000. So you divide 1,000 by 20,000, you'll get 0.05 equals R. And then you have to convert it back to a percentage, which is 5. Time takes out the loan, there's your rate, and there's your interest. How long was the loan taken out? Interest of 1,000, principal 5,000, rate of 0.05, looking for the time. So 5,000 times 0.05 equals times t will equal 1,000. Divide both sides by whatever was with t. So divide by 250, divide by 250, time is 4. Now, one more that they probably will do if they do it, and that is adding the interest back on the loan. Whenever you take out a loan, you have to pay back the loan itself plus the interest. So on this one, you have to find the interest first. And this is more like the GED test type questions. You have to find the interest first because that's the amount on top of the loan. So 5,000 times 5 times 4, that gives you the 1,000. That's your interest. Then you add it back to the original loan. So you say 1,000 plus the 5,000 from the loan. So the total paid back is the loan itself plus the interest, which is 6,000. One more thing I want to show you real quick. You may or may not encounter this. If you do, it's going to be in a simplistic form, but this is compound interest. All we've been looking at is simple interest. And simple interest is one time they charge interest on a loan. Compound interest is they charge the interest monthly or daily, like most credit cards or house notes or things like that are either computed daily or monthly, and it adds a little extra to the loan so they could get a little more money out of it. So in this one, this formula that I'll show you here is not a formula that you need to memorize or anything like that, but if you see it, you need to at least be able to recognize it and go, okay, I can plug in the numbers to get A, because that's what they're going to want you to do. They're going to say, what's the final amount you need to owe on a loan of whatever. P is the principal again. That 1 is standard. R is going to be your interest rate as a decimal. N is the number of times interest is applied per time period, so per year or per day. So this will either be 12 or 30 typically. And yet again, that same number will go there. And then the number of time periods. 36 months, 48 months, 24 months, 12 months, whatever it is. So here's a real life example. Skylar takes out a $10,000 loan that has a compound interest of 6%. She takes the loan out for 3 years in which the interest is applied every month. So it explains exactly what's going on. So P is the principal, that's the 10,000. The 1 standard, there's your percentage as a decimal. Then down here, N is the number of times interest is applied per time period. So it's applied every month. So 12 months, again, 12 months, and the number of time periods elapsed, 3 years. So then you just solve it out. The 0.06 divided by 12, that's 0.005. You add it to the 1, and then this 12 times 3, this is a power, 12 times 3. So you'll have to do 1.005 raised to the 36th power. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting little computation you got to do there. Then once you do that, you'll get 1.1966, and then you multiply that times 10,000 because you do ordered operations. Parentheses, exponents, then you multiply. So you get a grand total of 11,966.81.